Hello and welcome to the Chris Oldcorn Show on the Western Standard News Media Network. I'm here today with Saskatchewan NDP leader Carla Beck. Thank you for joining us.
Yeah, great to be here with you, Chris.
Well, thank you for your time. Let's start off talking about some differences between the federal NDP and the Sask NDP. I noticed when I moved here that there was substantial differences between the two. Matter of fact, one of your own MLAs even said to me, you're almost like the progressive conservatives in the province because you have a lot of fiscal policies that are conservative and a lot of social policies that are progressive. Let's first talk about pipelines because that's the big thing in the news lately, particularly given our issues with the U.S. Where does the Sask NDP stand on pipelines and their development?
Yeah, well, maybe I'll just respond a little bit to the preamble, and because certainly that is true and has been the case for a long time in this province. This is NDP in Saskatchewan has been pragmatic, prairie pragmatists, as you might say, and have been very good at managing the books in this province. So I would agree with whoever your source was on that one. When it comes to pipelines, not just since the last election and what we've seen with the growing uncertainty in the U.S., but for a long time, we're in support of pipelines. We understand and support the oil and gas industry here in Saskatchewan. The largest contributor by dollar value when it comes to exports to the coffers of this province, incredibly important to the economy. Right across the province, communities like Cardiff, where I have family, in the southeast, up around Lloydminster, right across this province, oil and gas is an important part of our past in Saskatchewan, the present, and will be for some time into the future. So definitely one of those areas where we have some difference with the federal party, but that has been our position since we've existed here in Saskatchewan.
And also, there's also the federal gun registry. Scott Moe has said that he won't fund any police force that would be enforcing that. You're also the farming critic as well for the Sask NDP. Where does the NDP stand in terms of guns in the province and how they should be used?
Yeah, another longstanding position of the Saskatchewan NDP, going back to the 90s with the long gun registry, not something that we have ever supported or been on side with here in Saskatchewan. When it comes to the federal buyback program, that is not something that we have ever supported. I grew up in a farming community. Grew up with guns back before changes. The shotgun was always present in the truck for coyotes or pests. We had cattle. We had chickens. My mom and dad have owned an outfitting business for over 25 years now. I understand that guns are part of the way of life here in Saskatchewan, part of the culture. And again, this is a point of difference. I wouldn't say just with New Democrats. I think with prairie folks who are comfortable and understand the importance of gun safety, and larger urban centers like Toronto, where they don't have that culture or that understanding. Instead of putting money into registries and buybacks, we should be fighting crime with the people who are committing crime in this country. So again, that's a well-established position, not one that I took on my own, but certainly one that I support.
You brought up some trade issues with the U.S. and also with China. You've mentioned in the past that you wanted to go with Scott Moe on trade missions. What do you feel you could have brought to the table if you were at the table with Scott Moe and other representatives from the Saskatchewan government?
And I've said this on different issues at different times. There's a time for political differences. There's a time for discourse and fights. And I like a good debate as much as anyone else. Sometimes when you need to show strength and solidarity, it's important to say, hey, look, not only the government is in favor, but the opposition as well. This is a position setting partisan politics aside that we both agree on. And I'm hearing from people that they want to see that, not on every issue. There's a need for debate. There's a need for a strong opposition. I hope we get to switch roles very soon, but that need is there. But on issues as important as the unity, the economic future of this country, and this province, sometimes I think people want to see across the aisle support. And we have seen this. I've been elected here since 2016. There have been some times when we've been able to put differences aside because we know that we are both working in the interests of Saskatchewan people. I think that this would have been one of those instances. I also, the more resources, the more people who are bringing that same message, I think the more effective we can be. Again, not on every issue, but on this one.
We're now seeing Carney also is now going to go to China. Mo was there a couple of months ago. Canola farming is massive in this province. I mean, you drive on any highway, you see the yellow fields all over. What do you think can be done to get China to lift that and to, once again, not put a massive tariff on everything connected to canola? Because they've done it on everything now with connected to canola.
Yeah. Well, let's look at the root of the imposition of these tariffs. It followed the measures against Chinese EVs.
Mm-hmm.
And, looking at removing those tariffs on Chinese EVs has to be part of the discussion. This is a point of difference between myself and the federal Conservative leader, for example. Again, I think it's important, regardless of political stripe here in this province, as someone who wants to be the premier of this province, that has to be consistent no matter who is in power or who is taking those positions in Ottawa. Certainly, we've been clear about that from the very beginning. And we've made that clear with all three federal parties. So that would be an important first step, would be to be talking about taking those EV tariffs off Chinese cars. I think Prime Minister Carney going to China is an important step. I think using all the diplomatic channels that we have available to us is incredibly important. I've heard from producers, this year we saw a suppression of prices. It had an impact. I'm very worried about what this means going into next year, because if these tariffs continue, all indications are that it is going to be very devastating into the next year. So I think I'm in support of all efforts to get those tariffs removed, and make sure that we've got I'm sure a lot of nervous producers, farmers out there right now thinking about what's going to go in the ground in the spring. It would be great to be able to say that those tariffs are removed and they don't have that worry on top of all the others.
Yeah. Speaking of crises, healthcare obviously is a major issue in the province. We've seen ER closures. Just here in Regina, we're seeing some ICU doctors leaving, like half the ICU doctors between the two hospitals were either fired, quit, or are leaving in the next few months. Alberta has floated the idea and is starting to go down the path of having both public and privates. Private like in the evenings and on weekends, public during the day. What do you think can be done here in Saskatchewan on a fairly short time frame that we could do to improve healthcare in the province?
Number one is listen to those doctors who are saying, and have been saying for years now, this system needs change, that those who are making decisions, often, unfortunately, in small rooms here in the legislature and here in Regina, need to listen to those communities, those frontline physicians, nurses, healthcare providers, because that's something that hasn't been happening. And we are losing more healthcare providers in this province at a faster rate than any other province in the country. That's number one. And that doesn't cost us a damn thing, honestly. I think that is the number one thing that government needs to do, and certainly is the number one thing that I hear. There are problems, absolutely. Everyone who goes into an emergency room or tries to get a family doctor understands that there are problems. What I also hear every time I talk to those who are on the front line, who desperately want to be providing care to people, who trained their whole lives, have spent their career dedicated to bettering health outcomes for people. The number one thing that is driving them out of this province is the sense that we have a government that is simply not listening to them and is not that interested, frankly, in taking their advice or their ideas and making healthcare better within the public system.
Okay. Let's talk a bit now. Let's say the legislature was sitting right now, and you could go into legislature, pass 3 different pieces of legislation.
Yeah.
What 3 pieces of legislation would you pass that you think would have the most positive impact on the province?
Okay. Am I in government or am I in opposition?
Well, you're in opposition, but let's say they're gonna let's say they're gonna let it go through.
Okay. Well, one is not even hypothetical. The number one issue, again, healthcare, strong second, but the number one issue I'm hearing from people is a growing sense that they are falling further and further behind financially. Something to address the cost of living that is frankly, for most people or many people in this province, getting to the point where it's out of control, where people are putting their groceries on their credit cards. And I'm talking about people who have worked their whole lives, who have never struggled before, all of a sudden are looking at the price of turkey and thinking, maybe we'll have sausage for Christmas this year. One of the things that we brought forward is a rent control bill. Had we been building housing, had we had a housing plan and we're building that housing out, maybe we're not here. But right now, we've had 40 months of steady rent increases for people in this province. This is the Wild West. There's no controls, no limits on how much. Companies like for-profit companies from Alberta can come in here and jack up rents. We've heard 20-30%, often from seniors and young people who are really struggling with those increased costs. So there's one. If I was going to be guaranteed it was going to pass, maybe I'd look at the taxes and the other ways that this government has increased costs for people and maybe throw some of those in, some relief for people. Number 2 has to be something around healthcare. As I just said, the first idea, the first most impactful immediate thing we could do doesn't even require legislation, doesn't cost us a dime. But, looking at those first 3 things that we need to do to stabilize the existing workforce, make sure that we have a plan to have everyone in this province to have a family doctor. Right now, we're going in the wrong direction. That would be the second bill, something around healthcare. Number 3 has to be, looking at the budget numbers and how much we're paying to service debt in this province again, something that I heard a lot about when I was a young person in this province. I'm not that young anymore. We're starting to hear, $1 billion. We sent a big check at Christmas time to draw attention to the fact we're sending $1 billion to bankers in Toronto right now to service the debt in this province. We need better accountability. We don't have a revenue problem in this province as much as we have a mismanagement and a waste problem when it comes to this government. There has to be some accountability. People have to understand and believe that they are getting value for those dollars that we are spending. And certainly, I would much rather be spending $1 billion here in this province, delivering affordability relief or delivering better health care for people in this province than sending that check to bankers on Bay Street or even down to Wall Street. So those would be the 3 areas. I could fill in a lot of details with some time if I'm guaranteed it's going to be passed, but we'll see.
Where do you see the government waste? Like, where would you look first for that?
Oh, man. I mean, sometimes I realize when I'm giving a list to people, even in the time that I've been here, I've forgotten some of the some of the ones that were a little further back. Well, the bypass. I mean, I still think that there are a lot of questions to answer around how much we spent on the bypass. I think of paying 10 times what it costs in the public system to send women to Calgary, for example. Plus, those people are paying out of pocket. I look at some of the decisions around P3 schools, for example. Something when I was a school board trustee that certainly had me very concerned about those costs and how those decisions were made. But I think you only have to look at the ballooning of the debt in this province. We're now projected over $40 billion in debt, going past 50 in this province. I think there's a long list of the ways that this government has spent and not received value.
Okay.
This government is very good at spending money. What they're not so good at is ensuring that when they spend those dollars, that Saskatchewan people are benefiting from those dollars. And I think that's the number one way that they have failed, both on the economic side, but when it comes to delivering value for people in this province.
Okay. Let's end on a lightning round.
Or better take a drink then.
So these are one-word answers.
Ooh.
Are you ready?
Okay.
All right, you got 5. 1, coffee, tea.
Coffee.
Dog, cat.
Dog.
Fake or real Christmas tree?
Oh, real, for sure.
Early bird or night owl?
Early bird. Used to be the opposite.
And finally, the one that matters the most, Stampeders or Rough Riders?
Wow. Oh my goodness. I'm offended by the question, but the riders for.
Well, thank you very much for sitting down with us today. And I hope we can do this again in the future.
Good luck with the show. Thank you.
Thank you very much for watching the Chris Oldcorn Show. Have a great night.